everybody. Perfect.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome everyone to this Employability World Tour event focusing on United Kingdom. We let the last people to arrive on our webinar. Perfect. So welcome everyone. I'm Claire Ruffin. I am Alumni Careers Department Manager at EMLYON Business School. I will be our moderator today. Thank you for joining us to the third session of our series of webinars called the Employability World Tour. It's a series of monthly webinars in World Tour to meet EMLYON alumni and recruitment experts around the globe and aims at presenting the employment specificities in 10 countries. We already had webinars on Morocco and Germany. You can find the replay if you want of this webinar on our platform EMLYON Alumni. And the next webinar will take place on the second Tuesday of each month from January 2021 to July 2022, sorry. They are free of charge and really open to students, alumni, and staff of EMLYON. So you are most welcome, everyone, to join us for the next session next year. I would like to really warmly thank our speakers of today, Zoe, Charles-Edouard, and Olivier. They will share their expertise and their best practice with you. We have complementary speakers for this session, Jean-Charles Ledo. As a Deputy Consul, he will explain us the impact of Brexit and UK job markets and administrative aspects. To finish, just a few technical aspects of this webinar. We kindly ask you to mute your micro until the Q&A session. The Q&A session will be at the end of this webinar, so you will be really free to ask all the questions you have. During the webinars, you can put questions on the chat, and so we can have all these questions at the end during the Q&A session. But you can, if you want to open your camera, it's more friendly for our speakers to see you. And just please note that this session will be recorded so we can share this webinar like the others to students or persons who could not attend the webinar today. So to start, I give the floor to our guests to introduce themselves. Zoe, maybe you can start as the only woman of today to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Claire. So hello, everybody. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here today, Claire, and to the EMLYON colleagues. I'm very happy to be here and to share with you my experience. So as you can tell from my accent, I'm native English, so I come from Manchester. And I've been living in Lyon now in France for just over 3 years. So just to give you a bit of my background, I studied in the UK at the University of Nottingham. So I studied languages, and I did 1 year abroad working in France during my studies. And then since then I've been working in the education sector. So I've worked in 2 large institutions in the UK. I also worked for a small startup in the UK, which was working in the hospitality sector. So working with professional training. And then 3 years ago, I decided to move back to Lyon. And I've now been working at EMLYON for 2 years. So managing the executive MBA program. So I actually see, I think, a few of my participants here today. So thank you for coming along, and hello. And yes, I'm more than happy to share with you my experience as a native person, as I have the experience of the 2 countries, working in both, and the recruitment process. I'm more than happy to to answer any questions you have and help you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe. Maybe Charles-Edouard, if you want to continue.
Yeah, sure. Hi. Thanks, Claire. So my name is Charles-Edouard de Lisfania. As you can see from my accent, I'm not English, I'm French. I've promotion 2002, so a while ago. My career started, I never really worked in France. I started in the US, in banking, Australia in wine and spirits. And in the UK, I came for 2 or 3 years, I thought. And 16 years later, I'm still in this country, which I love. I've been in positions in marketing, commercial, and lately now I'm opening a new company for a French group in the UK. So it'd be a pleasure if I can to enlighten you with a few things that I learned over my years in the UK.
Thanks. Maybe Olivier, as another alumni.
Yes, good morning. Olivier Marais, like Charles-Edouard, French as well, but actually British since last month. I've been in the UK since I arrived in 1996, just after my finishing EMLYON, graduating EMLYON. So I'm alumni in 1995, so even older. And I've worked in the UK, then France, then Switzerland, and back in the UK in 2009. Been here for a while. I've worked for about 20 years in the beauty business. I worked for L'Oreal and then for a Spanish company called Puig, who has Paco Rabanne, Nina Ricci, Jean-Paul Gaultier, and many other brands in their portfolio. And I changed my career about 2 years ago to work for the European leader in transition management, a French company called Valtus, where we opened the UK business in 2020. So might have an interesting view, well, like all of my colleagues, on the UK market and what it can bring at the moment. So looking forward to sharing some of my experience and also answering your questions.
Thanks very much, Olivier. And to finish, Jean-Charles Ledo, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jean-Charles Ledo. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me. I'm very pleased to join. So I've been Deputy Consul General of France here in London since September 2020. To make things simple, I would say that we have two representations in London, the embassy and the consulate general. The embassy deals with politics, and in particular, the bilateral relation with the UK. Here at the French consulate, we're in charge of the administration of the French community, which is quite big because we have almost 140,000 French citizens registered with us. So the administration consists of issuing passports, national identity card, registering birth, death, marriages, organizing elections. Next year, of course, will be very important in terms of elections. We'll have 56 polling places, most of them in London, but as well in Birmingham, Brighton, Leeds, and so on. So that would be a very special year for us. We are very interested in the questions of mobility. As you know, mobility between France and the UK is not what it used to be before the 1st of January. So I'll do my best to give you an insight on the mobility and the new law on immigration, which entered into force on the 1st of January this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Charles. So we will start this webinar with the first part with Olivier on employment situation, industries, and employment trends. So, Olivier, if you want to give us your point of view and the situation of employment today in United Kingdom.
You are on mute, Olivier.
You see, after 2 years of Zoom, there's still the habit of actually keeping quiet. What's interesting to point out in the UK at the moment, and it's not very dissimilar to what's happening in Europe, I understand, is a very low level of unemployment. And that's actually the lowest level of unemployment since 1973, which sounds quite astonishing. Actually, the numbers have been released this morning, and what it was 4.3, it's now at 4.2% of the population is unemployed. Of course, it's a bit higher than before the pandemic, but overall, as I said, it's been more than 30 years since the number has been as low as that. There is currently over 1.2 million job vacancies in this country. So 1.2 million of jobs that cannot be filled. And to put it into perspective, the OECD rate is at 5.8, so G7 5.5, and France 7.7. So we know there is always a difference between the two countries. The model is different, despite the fact that the size of population is relatively similar. The UK has always had a much more flexible and fluid employment market. And what explains this very buoyant employment market is led by several factors. First of all, the combination of COVID and Brexit meant that a lot of European people, because of COVID or because of Brexit or because of both, have decided to go home, to go to their origin country, and that has triggered some shortages in terms of staff. The other element, which is a very known HR trend at the moment, is a concept of great resignation. People have been working from home for the last year and a half, and the UK hasn't been like France, a very, let's say, progressive model. We went into lockdown, and then we were freed, and then we went to lockdown again. So that had triggered maybe some fatigue for a lot of people, burnout or situation where it has also given them the opportunity to reflect on what they really want to do. The UK and largely London is a market where people do a lot of commuting, and sometimes it can trigger some thinking on, is it the job that I want to carry on doing, whilst there might be some other opportunity. So that has created, as I said, a lot of changes in the market, with people questioning their willingness to carry on what they do. Just to give you an example of what the Brexit has also triggered, people have come back, and we've seen actually for all type of European countries, let's say Central Europe, but also closer to us, France, people have decided, and companies have decided to relocate their staff to these countries. What is worth mentioning about the UK market, it's a very agile employment market. As I said, there are about 4.2 million people in the UK that are self-employed. That's about 15% of the population. The UK has a trend, has a tendency for using a lot of freelance, a lot of interim, a lot of consultant, and it is very much accepted by company across all hierarchical position in organization. In my role, we actually are sourcing a senior CEO who will do an interim, or senior HR director or finance director. So the market is a very agile market. A lot of people have decided to take that route. It gives them independence and freedom, and probably they're maybe I'm making a judgment here, they might be a bit less risk averse than we have in France. They're used to this freelance approach, and the fact that because the market is not so productive, you're actually quite happy to take the risk. When I say the market is not highly protective, I call it a hire and fire model, which is a very well-known expression. you don't have all the mechanisms that you have in France when you leave an organization. You don't have this sort of situation where you can agree with your employer to actually be made redundant. And to give you a very practical example, whatever you would have earned in your previous year, when you lose your job, at the moment, the indemnity that you are paid by the government for a short period of time is £174 every 2 weeks. And that you are a CEO of a large organization or a much lower employee on the scale, that's what you'll be entitled to. So the market for employers is a much easier market to make people redundant, to restructure organization, but also that's a market where then as a consequence, the market is very agile and it's easier to find a job, I would say. The last thing, but we will talk about it in a few minutes, is a market much more challenging to navigate for Europeans. As you all very well know, Brexit happened, and there is clearly now a barrier to entry for European citizens that none of us had. I suppose for Charles-Edouard and myself, when we came to the UK, you didn't have to apply for any paperwork. You just came here, got a job, and that was sorted. I also had the opportunity to work in Switzerland. That's a very different ballgame. And the UK market is now moving to something more restrictive and more complex and more costly, which is costly, well, in terms of time, but also costly for businesses, because there are significant amount of procedure that Jean-Charles will talk about with some law fee involved. And it is actually a situation that, at the moment is making things more complex. I was reading an article this morning where companies have decided to hire far less European people than in the past. And that's also part of the shortage of staff that I was mentioning earlier. Here we are.
Thank you very much, Olivier. Really good transition. That's why we wanted to really have someone to speak about this situation really changed on employment in United Kingdom. And so Jean-Charles will explain us all the administrative procedures for Brexit visa and all these elements of today and what changed until the 1st January of this year.
Yes, thank you very much, Claire. So one of the main consequences of Brexit, of course, is the ending of the freedom of movement between the EU and the UK on the 31st of December last year. As you know, a trade and cooperation agreement was signed on Christmas Eve, the TCA, in which the UK actually refused to include a chapter on mobility. So since then, since the 1st of January, we've got two types of European citizens. EU citizens who were residents in the UK by the 31st of December 2020 and who were eligible to a status here in the UK, either pre-settled or settled status. I will explain the difference later. And other European citizens who actually now need a visa to live, work or study in the UK. A new law on immigration entered into force, so in the UK on the 1st of January 2021. It's a law that relies on a points-based system, pretty similar to the law which is implemented in Australia, for instance, and a law that treats EU and non-EU citizens equally. And the main aim of this law is actually to attract the best and the brightest. So a quick look on the EU settlement scheme. To be eligible, EU citizens who were living in the UK by the 31st of December last year could apply and then secure their rights to work, live and study in the UK as per the withdrawal agreement. It was possible to apply online with a proof of nationality or identity, like biometric passport and a proof of residence. The deadline was the 31st of June and not the 31st of December, because there was a period of grace. Now it has expired, but European citizens can still apply, not online, but with a paper form, if they can show that they have reasonable grounds to apply lately. So what they can get is a pre-settled status if they were resident for less than 5 years in the UK, and the settled status if resident for at least 5 years. Just an idea, to this day, we have 235,000 applications made by French citizens. We are far from being the first nation, EU nation in terms of applications. We are far from the Polish or the Romanian. They have much more than 1 million applications. So sometimes we feel that the French community is huge. We think London is the fifth city, French city in the world. So it's not exactly the case. They are European with a much bigger community than ours. So the new law, the domestic immigration policy, EU citizens, they do not require a visa when visiting the UK for up to 6 months. You can come to the UK for tourism, to visit family, and in most cases even to study in the UK for a period of less than 6 months. If you intend to stay for more than 6 months, especially if you want to work, if you want to study, you need to apply for a visa under the points-based system. The main route, and we'll see that later in detail, is the skilled worker route. But you have many other routes, like the route for students, for graduates, for global talent, for innovation, for sportsmen. So many different routes. So the main one, as I said, is the skilled worker route. What you need to demonstrate, you need to meet a specific set of requirements for which you are going to score points. So first of all, you need to have an offer of a job from a licensed sponsor, a sponsor which is licensed by the Home Office here in the UK. The job must be at or above the minimum skill level, so RQF3 level, or the equivalent of A level, and the applicant must speak English to an acceptable standard. Usually it's a B2 level. So here are some details on the system, the point-based system. You need to get 70 points to get your visa. Some points are mandatory. They're in red. It's what I mentioned before. So you must speak English, have a job offer, and a sponsor, and a proper skill level. So those 50 points are mandatory and non-tradable. So you need 20 extra points that you can get either depending on your job salary, the threshold is 25,600, and you can make 20 points, but you can get points as well if you apply for a job in a shortage occupation, if you have a PhD degree, and you can get even more points if your PhD degree is in science, technology, math, and engineering. So a quick look on other kind of visas. You've got the Global Talent Visa for leaders and potential leaders in the field of academia and research, arts and culture, digital technology. So to be eligible, you need to be endorsed by an institution. For instance, the Tech Nation, if you apply in the framework of the digital technology. Then you have the startup visa, innovator visa, if you want to set up an innovative business in the UK. Then again, you will need to have your business or your business ID approved by an endorsing body. That could be a UK higher institution. Then you have the trade agreement, migration routes, the temporary worker, international agreement worker visa, or the intra-company visa if you're transferred by your employer to a role in the UK, for instance, or if you transfer to the UK to be part of a training program for a managerial role or specialist role. Then you have a temporary worker, government authorized exchange. If you want to come to the UK for short time to gain some experience in a company, to do some training or some research, international student if you want to study. You've got the youth mobility scheme as well, which is a pretty flexible program for young people aged 18 to 30 who want to come to the UK to work. You can get a visa for up to 12 months. France, unfortunately, is not part yet, I would say, of the youth mobility scheme. The UK is partnering with 9 countries, among those Australia, Canada, New Zealand. There's no European country at the moment, but that would be an interesting route. And maybe UK and France will negotiate in the future so that route can be included. That would be very, very handy for internships or au pair, for instance, because today, as an au pair, a French citizen can't go to the UK and be an au pair anymore. There's no visa for au pairs. And you have as well a graduate route for applicants at bachelor's or master's level, which gives you the opportunity to work in the UK either for 2 years or up to 3 years when you're a doctoral student. That's what I could say about the new law on immigration, and I'll be happy to answer to your questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we will have lots of questions. We start to have some questions on the chat, but Jean-Charles Ledo will answer all your questions at the end. And thank you, Olivier, for this view about employment in United Kingdom. We will go to the second part of this webinar on job interview and cultural specificities. So I let Zoe give his point of view on this subject.
Thank you, Claire. So, so I've got a few things to share with you about my experiences. First of all, about first impressions. So it might seem quite basic to most of you when I talk about punctuality and how you dress, but these things are really important in the UK. Obviously, I'm aware that some of you might come from different cultures where things might be maybe more relaxed, especially with, modern times as well, things changing in the way people dress to work. But for interviews, so first of all, it's really important to be on time. It's even better if you can arrive maybe 5 minutes early to your interview. And I always say, you can use this time to kind of have a look at the environment where you might potentially be working. But it's always important, and that goes beyond interviews as well to kind of the general working culture in the UK. For meetings, I think Olivia and Charles will agree with me. It's always important to be on time and to always warn the people if you're going to be late. Don't hesitate to send a message or call them just to warn them, because it's just out of pure politeness. So, and then secondly, obviously how you dress. So in the UK in general, office wear is, fairly conservative. So just remember to, dress smartly for your interview. And the other thing is, not obviously in all situations, it depends on the people involved and the company. But we do really like what we call small talk in England. So often it'll be talking about the weather, because we're British, so we love speaking about the weather. And it's just usually in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the interview. It could be when they come and meet you and take you to the room. So don't be afraid to have a bit of a conversation with the person about maybe just the environment or the weather, just to show also that you've got a bit of personality, and that you're friendly as well. And then obviously quickly it will probably become more formal. So that's all for the first part. For the second part, what I noticed, well, there's quite a few differences from what I've experienced between France and UK in terms of the style of interviews. So in the UK, I would say interviews in general are quite structured. From my experience, the people on the panel, usually you might have up to 3 people on the panel. They might already have questions prepared, and they will follow a specific structure of questions that they will ask you. And depending on the job, they can ask you things based on the skills. So often they'll take the skills from the job description. So it could be, depending on the job, you might be asked to demonstrate that how to use time management skills, problem solving, teamwork skills, lots of different things. So often they'll ask you for a situation, so that goes on to the situational questions. So they might say, can you tell me about a time when you had to deal with conflict at work? Lots of different situational questions often come up, or behavioural as well, because they want to know you as a person. So that is something I would say that's very specific about the UK, that they like to focus on as well, your personality, what you can bring to the workplace in terms of, maybe communication skills, presenting in front of clients, customer service skills, if necessary, to the job, and then obviously technical as well. And on top of that, it's obviously good to always have a prepared answer for the kind of typical question of why have you applied to this job and why this company. But in general, I would suggest that you prepare these kind of different questions. And in the UK, a kind of general technique to help you structure your answers is the STAR technique. So this is a really good technique that you can use as well in your application. So when you write your application, if you have to answer specific questions about skills, and I would really suggest for you to have a look through the job description for the job, and highlight some skills, and then maybe even, you know, write out some bullet points using this technique. So the aim of it is that you describe the situation. So describe the situation that you're in your previous experience, and the task that you had to do. So what was the, you know, the context. Then you would describe what action you took, so what you did, and finally the result. So, you know, what was the outcome? This is also a chance, I think, for you to also discuss maybe what you could, in hindsight, what you could have done better. So what would you do going forward in the future if you were in this situation again? So overall, with this technique, I would suggest, you know, that you either write things down or practice with a family member or a friend. Practice is really important, and being able to always use previous experience to kind of back up your answer and develop your answer and demonstrate that you have the skills that they're looking for. There you go.
Thank you, Zoe. Really interesting. Maybe Charles-Edouard can explain, maybe have other view about what he discovered when he arrived in UK.
No, sure. Thanks, Zoe. Thanks, Claire. Just to let you know, for the people who are attending this presentation, Zoe, Olivier, and I haven't spoken before, so you might find some points which are similar on our slides about these different topics. So first, on my side, what I wanted to let you know is that be confident in the sense that employers or recruiters in the UK, what I call have two open ears. It means that being non-UK is okay. I give you a personal example. I actually opened a subsidiary, as I told you before, and I've got 6 team members. I've got 6 nationalities: Sri Lankan, Lebanese, English, Italian, Romanian, and French. Okay, so being French looking for a job in the UK is not a problem. People are used to actually interview foreigners, so you can be confident about that. Then a bit less in details than Zoe will give you a lot of very interesting advice, is that what you have in France, where it's more about your pedigree, where you come from, what you've studied, etc. As a French person, they don't really much pay attention to this in the UK. And what's very important for a recruiter is who you are, what are your skills, back to the STAR model, what you know how to do, what you bring to my business. They want to know you first, and I will go further, not only from a professional background as well, but could they see you fit within the team as well, and go to the pub at 4 p.m. on a Thursday and enjoy being with each other, rather than having some awkward blank conversation. I think these are the kind of, at least for the role I interviewed, the kind of people they were looking for this. So it's about, for me, making sure you really focus on this, obviously being serious about, you know, you state the company, etc. But this is very important. And then don't be taken by the different formats of interviews you'll be put across, especially in the past few years, as you know, video calls, video calls and new technologies have arisen. You have very different formats. I'll give you a perfect example. I've lost my job in May this year. So as the first time in my life I looked for a job, I had a few examples of different formats. One, I applied for a drinks company. They asked me to go onto a link, and on the link, I had to do a 30-second video with one question that was asked to me. I knew 1 minute before. So I read a question 1 minute after. I need to do the 30-second video once. I had 3 questions. Out of that, whoever is watching it, the HR director, the manager, picks up, out of 100, they pick up 30. And they do their interviews, etc. Second example, sometimes you will see, they don't call it an interview. They call it a meeting. They call it a coffee catch-up. What is it? It's an interview. But it's not called an interview anymore because they want to seem more cool, or it's not that important because, again, it relates back to my point number 2. They want to know you. They want to be around, you know, like if you were in a pub chatting to each other, they want to know you more personally. So from a very French educated background that I was, I really love, and you will see it on maybe you have the poster too, but keep calm and carry on. It doesn't matter which tricks they put you into interviews. Being French is not an issue. Just be yourself, be confident what you can bring to the business, and things will go well.
Thank you very much, Edouard. You just show us that you just changed your job this year, so it still have job and lots of opportunities in UK. So to finish this part, we can ask the expert on recruitment with Olivier, who can just give us his vision on a French and UK recruiter of today.
Yeah, I mean, I will share not only that aspect, but also as Charles-Edouard, you know, I've been on the other side, I've been actually interviewed for jobs. And I would say the first element, which I put as being didactic, is nobody understands the French system of Grande École. And we all come, you know, full of, you know, confidence and reassurance that we are ranked in the number 3, number 4, number 5 school. In my case, I did some previous studies before, and I arrived in the UK in 1996, thinking that, you know, the door was wide open for me, but actually nobody understands what you've done. And I happen to have done 1 year at La Sorbonne in between my school. That's the only thing these people were interested in, which for me was actually not at all relevant compared to EMLYON or my previous study. So we have to explain what it is. But I think to, you know, Charles-Edouard's comment is focus on what you can do, not where you come from, because that's a question where people will ask you. They will be interested in what can be your added value in the organization. The fact that you've studied 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, that you've done X or Y is not at all something they're interested in. What they want people with energy, with passion. You have also to remember that the UK system is a system where people tend to study 3 years and don't necessarily tend to actually work in a topic that is related to their study. You have people who have studied philosophy at Oxford who will end up working in finance. What people are interested in your ability to be agile, to show personality, to adjust, and also to show some energy and impact. So that's what I mean by being didactic. So you have to explain a lot what you've done, but also show what you can do. In a polemical way, I said, don't be French. We still have, and I've got both hats now, but we still have the reputation to be a bit full of ourselves, you know, and being arrogant. And I'm not sure the conversation between France and the UK at the moment are helping that cause, because there are, you know, let's say, challenges, but just arrive with a modest approach, being keen to listen and not come with the belief that you can solve every problem in organization because you have studied and you've got a grande école and prépa and all these things. The other thing is show a sense of humor, and I think Zoe was mentioning it in a sort of small talk. The UK is formal to some extent, but is also less formal. You know, you will very quickly talk to people by their first name. The sir and madam is quite old-fashioned in a way. And so the ability to, even at interview, resist under pressure, show a bit of a sense of humor, and being confident in what you want to tell the interviewer is quite important. The third thing, don't bullshit. You know, there are sometimes interviewer or company will ask you for references or academics. Don't go the route of pretending to do things that you haven't done, because that will actually be checked very often. In my job as a recruiter, I always check references. And not only do you take sometimes references provided by candidate, but sometimes you take what you call gray references, because through network, you have sometimes people that you would know, and actually you can give them, you know, informal phone calls. So just make sure that, you know, what is in the can, on the can, is actually, you know, legitimate and true. And the other thing which I've experienced myself is when you say that you are fluent in English, just be fluent in English, because there is highly competition at the moment. There are a lot of other European that I would say globally, because of various reasons, starting with the fact that in other European countries the film are not their subtitles. So there are other people, other countries where English is actually very, very well spoken, better than France. So if you are fluent in English, say it. If you're not, just put another term, put intermediate or something similar, because the interview will be actually quite a strong revelatory of how fluent you are. This is for me.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this part of fluent will be really interesting. Maybe do you have some level you can give to with an interview to say I have level 1 A1 or something like this to give your level in English?
I would say that HR people don't always have, and again, I'm not an HR director, but I think they will be comfortable with some, grounded word and not HRBCX, whatever the term is. Some TOEFL or some other element could be an indicator and a pointer for them. But also, as I said, the interview will dictate it. So they will actually be able to pigeonhole you very, very quickly between are you really fluent, or are you intermediate, or are you beginner? But as we also understood from Jean-Charles, these topics are becoming even more important in current context.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll ask you your best advice for all of the participants, your 3 best advice to find a job, an internship today, what you can recommend us and suggest us to do to leave this and to join UK. Maybe we can start with Zoe.
Yeah, sure. So obviously you need to be prepared. So depending on which country you're from, I'm guessing most of you might be based in France at the moment and might have a French style CV. Something I had to go through, but the other way around, it's really important to make sure that you have the right format of your CV. So, to do some research online, make sure that it's in a UK style. What I found is that in the UK, the CVs are perhaps more traditional, and in France, not as not as many different graphics and nice looking. It's a bit more sort of black and white. I don't know, maybe Olivier can talk about this later and Charles, but it was actually a surprise to me in France to put the photo on CV. Usually in the UK we don't have photos. So they're little things, but something to bear in mind about how things are done in the UK. I would really recommend that you tailor your CV and your cover letter for each application. So that means obviously that you make sure that you've shown that you've done research about the company and the job, and you show that in your application. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you can have different types of application. I often found as a young graduate after I finished university, if you're applying to what we call a graduate scheme, which is where you get trained up in usually a corporate style company. It could be, they could have roles in marketing, finance, lots of different departments. Often you have a big online application to do where you have to answer different questions. Sometimes you might be asked as well to prepare a personal statement, which is a bit like a cover letter really, but make sure it's well structured, and you read over it, get somebody else to read over it, and show why you're interested in the company as well. So as I mentioned here, with the online applications, if you're sometimes you get a question and then a box where you have to write an answer to the question about a skill or an experience. Make sure you back it up and use, this is a good chance to use the STAR technique, which will help you kind of structure your responses. Obviously in the UK, it's quite it's kind of, yeah, I guess quite important to use your network, so that you have around you, whether that's online, so on LinkedIn and social media, or the people you know, whether it's through friends or family, work experience that you've done before. And we also talk a lot about word of mouth. So a lot of opportunities actually come around by you knowing someone or having maybe done a placement or an internship at a company in the past. And, if it went well, you can always get in touch with them again to see if they have any opportunities, or maybe to organize, a catch up or a coffee with the person that you were in contact with at that company. But something that is highly valued in the UK is work experience. So, doing short, whether it's even just a short placement where you contact a company that interests you and you ask them, can I come and work with you or shadow somebody for a week or two, if you have that opportunity to do that. Or if not, working on some projects, maybe volunteering in your sector, just showing that you're really committed to the area that you're interested in. And also another thing that you could do is to attend, careers fairs, and look out for networking events that can be, online through LinkedIn, or going to a recruitment agency and finding out about events that you could attend to meet people and, get yourself known in your sector. And my final piece of advice, and probably the most important really, from an English perspective, is do showcase and highlight your skills and personality. I think, as we've all mentioned so far, I think you've all understood that it's a very important aspect of getting employed in the UK. They want to know you, they want to know that you are what we call a well-rounded person, so that you're not just somebody who's got, like Olivier was saying, a degree from a grande école, or a really good degree. You also need to show that you have got other things going on in your life, so that you maybe, have hobbies. You could talk about your achievements with sports, volunteering. They like to hear these things. So, and, you can still use these maybe in interviews and on your CV to also demonstrate skills that you've taken from that. And this kind of comes from, just to give you kind of context, the whole education system. So often in high schools in the UK, you're kind of pushed from an early age to do lots of things around your studies, to develop lots of skills, so lots of extracurricular activities at university as well. So do get involved in the community, and if you're a student that's soon going to be finishing, don't be afraid to highlight as well that you've had a part-time job. All these things are really valued in the UK, and then to be able to discuss in the interview what you learned from these experiences and what that brought to you. So I think that's it. Just one last thing to finish is just going back to the graduate schemes. Often, just to give you an idea, that the kind of idea is that once you have shown that you are at a degree level and that you've kind of been able to get a degree from a good university, companies kind of have this feeling that they can then train you up within lots of different sectors. So as Olivier gave an example before, you could get someone who has a very general humanities degree who will then go and do finance, and that is not a problem. There are not limits to that. It's more about the skills and your willingness to learn and adapt. Okay, there you go. Back to you, Claire.
Thank you very much, Chloe. Lots of advice. Charles-Edouard, can you give us your advice? Your top?
Yes, I can. I think you will find some points as Zoe already mentioned. Anyway, so I might go quick on these ones, but for me, the first one, even for the new students, I will say is networking, réseau, as we say in French. So networking, super important in terms of people will hire people if they've known them directly or if they heard about them through someone else. and that's, I think, is super important. It can be personal, professional network. So what I mean by that is, as you can imagine, personal, you know what it means. Professional, it can be part of the social media platform, as Zoe mentioned, but it can be as well from ex-colleagues that have changed areas. You know, I've changed my life industry 3 times. And when I lost my job in May, I actually contacted people I was working with that changed industries, and they provided me with, you know, it was a bit of the ricochet effect that it provided me with 2 or 3 contacts additional to this. You know what? I went for them and he gave me some leads to do it. Don't forget as well your business school, EMLYON. So I think when the first time we met with Claire, it was, I think, Claire, I contacted you in
July.
In July, I think.
Yeah.
Claire sent me a fantastic tools, you know, different, you know, webinar about, you know, how to use LinkedIn to its best effect, how to actually find a job. There was a Michael Page interview for 2 hours recorded, and out of that there was as well a list of it's called Work Maze, which is offered because I'm an alumni for life, and it is an address book of all the recruiters and headhunters in the world. You can select your continent, UK, or continent, Europe, UK now, and Europe, and Asia, etc. And you got all the updated CEO and key contacts for these editors or recruitment agency. Which links me to my second point. You understand what I mean by that is, if you want to look for a job in the UK, you have to use different methodologies and methods to actually go through it. And for instance, when I started looking for a job, I was actually contacting my personal network. Next was contacting my professional network, and I was stopping there. But then when I look at the tool from Claire that she provided me, I actually spontaneously sent some motivation letters, introduction letters to the CEO of this recruiters agency or these headhunters. I selected the field I wanted to be in. I obviously didn't send that to finance recruiters, which was not what I wanted to do. I really targeted the industry I wanted to be in. I sent 22 spontaneous motivation letters with my resume, with my CV, which is exactly what Zoe said, a CV adapted to the UK market, which is very different from a French CV. And guess what? Out of the 22, I've got 8 companies that came back to me and say, yeah, thanks very much. We keep your profile in place, blah, blah, blah. And out of 8 of them, one of them said, you know what? We might have something that might be interesting to you. And here I am now. I started a new role, thanks to this kind of network in September, late August, early September this year. So I think my advice would be, do not hesitate for medium to senior, obviously not for students straight away, but for senior to mid-level, to use recruitment agencies or headhunters. And recruitment agencies, they post your CV, or they actually get your CV on some website, whereas headhunters, they actually headhunt the person. And I'm sure Olivier can talk to you more about the difference between the two of them. So that's one avenue. 2, do not hesitate. A lot of people like me that were looking for jobs were looking directly on companies' websites. Okay, why? Because you have a better contact straight to the HR director, and you got less competition that you have on the third avenue, which is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn, we could have a full 2-hour seminar on LinkedIn. I learned so much on LinkedIn when I was looking for a role on how to use it to its better effect, because LinkedIn, you think is just your resume online available to everyone, but you can really improve it on doing a lot of things. You can add your skills. You can do 2 top 3 skills. You know, you got 28% more views when you have your picture on the profile LinkedIn. When you post, you are 40% more relevant in front of recruiters if you actually post things on ongoing basis, which is interesting. So there's a lot of things you can use LinkedIn, but my message is, do not concentrate on one technique. If you really want to come to the UK and you're motivated, use a mix of these different techniques. And then, as Zoe mentioned, it's about preparation. You need to identify which industries and companies you want to work for, because give an example, if I want to go to the finance industry, as much I would want to go, I would be absolutely rejected. I would lose my time, the time of my people I would be interviewing with. Be confident about telling your story. You know, my story was, you know, I was not comfortable with my story because I was, you know, because of COVID, my position was made redundant and the company didn't have anything to offer me instead. So, you know what? That's the story. It's not bad. It's life. You know, I'm not the only one that lost his job because of COVID. And you know, people appreciate when someone can explain straightforward what has happened to them. Zoe mentioned a lot about the CV. On my side, I know in France we are might used to, you know, 3-4 page CV. To comment on your comment, Zoe, on the picture. In the UK, for me, on all my resumes, there are 2 pages max. There is no picture. There is no date of birth as well. The only thing is my home address and my name for GDPR/confidentiality purposes. Okay, so I think there are specifics, not to discourage you, but it took me, I never looked for a job in my life, and I was super confident on my resume after working on it 6 months. Okay, so it means that you need some time to get used to how to really write a resume for the UK market. And as before, you know, you have some typical questions that an employer will ask you, which you need to be ready to answer. You know, what value will you bring me to my company? What have you done that can actually help me? Where do you think you are not good at and you will develop in? What doesn't motivate you into the role? These kind of typical questions. I've got a list of 32 questions that I've prepared myself to answer in case the question was coming for me, and there are the 30 kind of typical questions. And once you are them, you practice them, it becomes natural on how you actually express them. So I think that would be my my last advice for job seekers in the UK. And my last point maybe is for people maybe in the UK, it's like when I lost my job, it's told, you know, how many times have you lost your job? He said, well, what do you mean? Once is a lot. No, it's not. In the UK, it happens. And you know what? As Olivier mentioned, it's not a problem because the market is so buoyant that, you know, you will find another job very soon. And you know what? I lost my job in May. I got a job in August. So actually, the proof is in the cake, as they say. I actually did find a job quite quickly. Back to you, Claire.
Thank you very much. Just I give information, we will have a webinar in January on English CV resume. Just because as you say, it's really different than in French and how you build it and things like this. So it's really important to know in a cultural specificity how you do your resume in different type of country and what they are looking for. So thank you very much. It was really good for me to translate and give the information about my webinar. Thanks very much.
Good.
And Olivier, can you give us your best advice at a recruiter?
Yeah, I'll be short because I'm sure people will have some question. And actually, it's not very different from my 2 colleagues before. But Zoe mentioned about the graduate program, and I say be open-minded. The French system is different to the UK system. Companies in the UK take the view that people have a brain, but not necessarily have the technical skills adapted to a job. So what they offer is this great program where you move from one department to another just to try out so you can spend 2 months in supply chain, then you spend 2 months in finance and 2 months in marketing. And at the end of sometimes the 2-year program, you're sort of geared towards one department or another. It's a bit different because you might end up being with people a bit younger, because if they've done 2-3 years university, they are 21 and you might be 23. Well, does it matter? It doesn't. The other thing for me is accept to start at a lower job because the UK is promoting fast. So, you know, you might have some views on what is the right salary level, what is the right position in an organization, but actually the UK it's a country which is theoretically all about pragmatism. And what that means is that if you deliver, on an output, then you will be rewarded. And actually, you might fast track compared to some of your colleagues because you probably had some experience in marketing, you studied in marketing in Lyon, but don't be too pedantic about where you start. You can actually grow very fast, and this training program is also a way to accelerate. Well, we talked at length about network, and it is absolutely vital. And I would say also, the Lyon alumni is a powerful tool. We've all experienced it. You will find a lot of people who are generous of their time. I mean, I'm saying that Charlie, Edouard, and myself will get bombarded maybe tomorrow with 50 people asking or more. But I think we've all had good time at Lyon, whenever it was. And so a lot of people are keen to share, keen to give some tips, keen to share some advice. Networking is not about always an immediate, I give you something, you give me something. You need to understand that networking is about long-term, which is sometimes why people at a later stage tend to forget it. But actually, it's a day-to-day job. And explore the resources. Charlie talked about LinkedIn. It's a way to also understand the dynamic. I think in the UK, we are about 700 alumni from all years. So that's quite a chunky network with its own function. So please use that. The other thing is don't ask, don't get. So what that means is that, be audacious. Nobody is going to close the door. Some people might not be as helpful or generous of their time, but the majority will. So what you have to do is make the first move, because people will not spontaneously come for you. And the third thing is be realistic and patient. And maybe that will actually lead to some more question, because as Jean-Charles mentioned, at the moment, the UK is a fairly closed market. We have to be realistic about it, except for settled status holders. So if you are already in the UK, then that's fine, or I've been here for some time. But the other thing is that it could change very soon. And what we say about the UK being a very pragmatic country might make the country realize that they will need some additional resources coming from all over Europe. So that might not be happening overnight, but ultimately it's a country that needs extra resources. So that would be my sort of wrap-up message before we go into the Q&A. Thank you. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you, for this overview on UK. We already have some questions on the chat, but maybe if the person who write question or other participants want to open their micro to ask directly your question to one of our panelists, don't hesitate. It's more friendly and more easy. Or can we lose the question? The first one is already difficult. No? So maybe I will start with the first question we have from Juan Pablo Para. Can you explain more about the intra-company visa? I think it's for Jean-Charles. Students are allowed to work.
Yes. So the intra-company visa, you need to work already for a company, let's say in France, and then be transferred to a partner company in the UK, either to gain some work experience or to be part of a training program to become later on a manager or to occupy some specialist role. But that's the requirement. You're transferred from one company abroad to another company in the UK.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clear?
We have some person who just want, I think, to ask question.
Yes, that's me.
Sarah?
Yes. First of all, thank you all for all the insights. I'm not French myself. I actually come from Morocco. I just happen to be living in France for 7 years where I studied. But I guess you have covered the topic for people who are non-EU citizens. My question is more about which sectors would be hiring the most in the UK for the following years? Thank you.
Maybe I can answer just through the lens of what I see in my world. Just actually, I'm providing senior executive people across all sectors, but on an interim basis. But fundamentally, it doesn't change the dynamic. What you see at the moment, and that's a bit of a tarte à la crème, but digital in all its aspects is a hot topic. And what you put under digital can be company transformation around infrastructure, but also could be around e-commerce as well. So it's quite a broad topic, but I suppose at the moment, accelerated by COVID dynamic and lockdown, any B2C business will search to accelerate its access to end consumer. So digital is one. There are a lot of shortages also in supply chain at the moment because of again, COVID related Brexit, and also the fact that with some of the blockade related to what was happening in China, a company realized that there is a new way to optimize their route to market. So that's only two topics, two areas where I see at the moment high demands. But I would say at the moment, as I said, 1.2 million shortages in terms of employment. You'll find job in lots of different sectors, in a lot of different industries, in marketing, in sales. The choice is wide.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. I have another participant who is called being optimistic. I think maybe it's so maybe you have a question.
Yeah, Claire. Thank you, Claire, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you to your speakers for your valuable insights about the UK market. I just need to know that how UK companies right now in the COVID situations is going to respond to non-Europeans for, giving them work permit, especially for mid-level. Like work permit for non-Europeans currently in the UK, sponsorship and all. Like companies are very open right now, or like how the scenario is right now?
I wouldn't say I don't think the situation has changed a lot. As again, we discussed earlier, there will be some specific route for specific jobs and functions. So for example, for the health system, there are some, let's say, priority access for European and non-European citizens to come to the UK. Otherwise, I'm not aware of any change of the dynamic for non-European citizens at this stage.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much. If I may ask, Nili, on your question about senior medium level.
Yeah.
I'm recruiting myself in my team for not senior, for medium level. And all the recruiters I talk to and I use tell me that the market they've never been usually, between now and Christmas is quite quiet in terms of recruitment. They've never been so busy. So I give an example. A recruiter told me last week they had to hire someone, a country manager for the UK in a new business. And they are super busy. So even the medium to senior position, I'm not talking about interim management, I'm talking about full-time job. All the recruiters I use are extremely busy. So I think it is showing that on, as Olivier mentioned, it's a buoyant market, even more, which is a bit of a surprise versus the Brexit, but even more than before. So it's quite exciting.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you. We have another hand, Yassine Bouyadaga. maybe he's not anymore. Gregory, I think you're there.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. I have a question for Jean-Charles. I wanted to know if it helps, because I already work in UK, but it was a long time ago. If you already have a national insurance number, does it help for the paper when you want to find a job in UK right now, or doesn't care? Doesn't help.
To help find a job or
Yeah,
get a visa?
Yeah, to get a visa, it's to some, or doesn't matter.
I'm not sure it would help you regarding the visa. Anyway, you'll have to reapply, have a sponsor, certificate of sponsorship, produce once again all the supporting documentation. So as far as the visa is concerned, if you're not living in the UK legally, I don't think it would make a difference.
Okay. Okay. And second question, just very quick. Does it scare the recruiter because if I find a job in UK, I have to move with my family? Is it easy to move with all your family in UK, or is it can be a problem for the recruiter if they know that you're moving with a child and wife?
Most of visas for work enable you to travel with your family.
Okay.
In most cases, for instance, that's the case for the skilled worker visa I spoke about before. So generally, it's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
So Yassine is going to write his question on the chat. For the moment, maybe Leah wanted to ask a question until
yes. Sure, thank you. So I have a question for Jean-Charles. It's regarding the pre-settled status. If you have it, but you've been living in the UK less than 5 years during the entire period, can you actually renew this status as you're not eligible for the settled one? Or will you have to switch to a UK visa?
When you have pre-settled status, you can apply for settled status when you reach the 5 years of residence. If you live abroad, you still have to spend 6 months over a 12 months period to qualify. If not, you're going to lose your pre-settled status, which is valid for 5 years. But after this time, you won't be able to get your settled status if you can't prove that you have spent 6 months time over a 12 months period.
Okay, thanks. And where do you start to count from the 12-month period?
Every 12 months from the start of the start of your pre-settled status, you have a date when your pre-settled status has been granted, and from this date you have to spend 6 months in the UK over each 12 months period. So starting from the date that you were granted the pre-settled status.
Okay, thank you.
We have Maxwell.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks for all the info. So my question is more of a practical one, maybe for Zoe or maybe Olivier or Charles. It's more regarding resumes, and I know there's a dedicated session in January. So not going too much into the detail, but regarding the length of the resume. So I graduated a year ago. I've got about a year and a half, including my final internship in consulting. So my question would be, in terms of resume building, would you keep it to 1 page maximum, given I'm a young professional, young graduate, or would 2-page developing, you know, all the different experience would be, you know, also a good way of going? Thanks.
Charles, do you want to say something? Maybe you're more up to date with the CV.
Maybe, yeah.
CV building.
No, sure. So my advice, in my case, I had more experience than you, obviously. So I had 3 or 4 pages. We had to reduce to 2. I think when you need to put yourself in the shoes of who is going to receive your resume and what is the mission for. And if he's looking for someone with your experience, you don't need to make it 2 pages. If it's 1 page and you have, you know, what you want to say in 1 page, so be it. I think if I was in your shoes, I think 1 page would be enough. As long as you are confident, the key of the resume is what? The key of the resume is to showcase who you are, your skill set, and your value. And it's about how do you feel in terms of expressing it on a page. So if you feel that on this 1 page, you have enough because you have seen essentials and this is what you want to sell to get the internship or the job that you want, that's it. But if you feel that you need to have 2 pages, but I think in your case, if you have 1 year in consulting, which is I think what you told me, Max, right? You have around
that's right. That's
1
right.
year of experience. I think on 1 page you should be able to express the quintessential and to attract and to raise the curiosity. So my advice for you specifically would be really to focusing on 1 page.
Right.
And again, it's not about really the format. I know I've seen a lot of resumes. I receive lots of candidates with, it seems to be the generation of emojis and logos on, you know, on French resumes. You have like a computer is for like informatic, and this is, I don't know, Zoe, what you think, but in the UK, this is not at all the current trend. It's very much kind of traditional. If the words are important, the actions, the result, the style that actually Zoe mentioned is much more important. So I think to answer your question straight, Max, I would recommend a 1 pager, and as your experience grows, next you can actually extend it to more.
Sure. Makes sense.
Okay. I agree. I think just to add on that, I think, just 1 page and, you know, making it really clear and putting things in bold. But as Charles said, it, you know, tends to be like quite a traditional CV in the UK, so kind of keep to black and white. I don't know if it's still the same, but it was like that 3 years ago anyway, when I was applying to jobs, and you know, just really focused on the content. So what you write, and as I mentioned before, making sure you have a section for like anything else, like hobbies or part-time jobs, is really important, I think, when you're first sort of starting out in your career. And maybe, you know, under your name you can do like a little paragraph of like your key kind of skills and things that you can bring to the job.
Great. Sounds great. Okay, thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you. We have Yassine. Maybe I will open your micro if you want to ask directly your question. It's good.
Yeah, is this working?
It's okay.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for the presentation, really cool, really structured. I actually had a question about the pre-settled status. I came to the UK last year, early last year, so I hold the pre-settled status. The problem is I've been there for 6 months, and by the end of my internship, I go back to France. My current pre-settled status is expiring by 2026. So since if I want to transform it to settled status, I need to do it while I still have my pre-settled status. I don't know if you have any tips, because by the end of my pre-settled status, I won't have been 5 years in the UK, having done the 6 months out of it. So I don't know if you have any tips about it.
I haven't heard very well. So what I understood is that you spent some time in the UK at the end of last year, and you were granted pre-settled status, and that your you're not going to spend the 6 months over a 12 months period, and that you might lose the benefit of your status after 5 years. Is that what you say?
Exactly. So like I haven't spent any time before the Brexit in the UK. So basically I only spent 6 months so far. And having spent another 6 months out of the UK, like being now in France, it will be complicated for me to transform it into settled status, having not done the 5 years and the 6 months not being counted.
So, but unfortunately, if you don't spend the 6 months over the 12 months period, you will lose the benefit of the status. Your status is valid for 5 years, and during those 5 years, you can legally live, work, and study in the UK. There are some exceptions on this rule, but if, for instance, you fall sick abroad and you can't come back to the UK. So, but apart from those few exceptions, the rule is clear. You have to spend 6 months over a 12 months time in order to later get the settled status. If not, unfortunately, you won't be able to apply.
Okay, just a question. So if my pre-settled status is expiring on 2026, can I just add 1 year with the visa and transform it, like having completed the 5 years, transform it later on with the settled status, or it's not possible?
When your pre-settled status expired, you'll have to apply for a visa. It will be a completely different procedure. You can't, in a way, transform your pre-settled status in a visa. You'll have to start from scratch, and if I may say, and apply for a visa.
I see. So after the visa, I can't apply to the settled status, if I get it right.
No, you won't be able to apply for settled status again. When you lose the benefit of your settled status or pre-settled status, that's it. And if you want to come to the UK to work, study, or live in the UK, then you have to apply for a visa. But you won't be able to reapply for settled status.
I see.
Unfortunately.
Just if you, one last question. In my internship, I didn't have like the national insurance number. They seen that they were counting, like they needed this number for counting the number of time I worked in the UK. Is this problematic?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. I didn't have the national NIN, the national insurance number, in my previous internship. Like it didn't came in time, so basically it's not registered. My previous experience in the in the institute, in the national insurance number. So is this a problem?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know if Claire could repeat, but
I don't either.
I can repeat. I think I understood. So Yassine was saying that in his last internship, he didn't have a national insurance number because it didn't come in time. Is that right? And he was wondering if that would be a problem for his application.
If that would be a problem for
the application for the settled status, or is it for the visa?
For the settled status.
For the settled status.
But I understood that you already have pre-settled status. Is that right?
Yes, I have pre-settled status, but just to transform it to settled status,
But you don't have a national insurance number.
No, not yet. No.
No, it's not a problem. You'll get one when you go and work in the UK.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, just because I heard that in order to justify being 5 years in the UK, we needed the national insurance number.
we know of French citizens who have the pre-settled status and they don't have the national insurance number yet. But as far as we know, it's not a problem.
Okay, amazing. Thank
We
you very
will
much.
give you the different type of website where you can ask a lot of questions about all these administrative questions who are still quite complicated. Until Jean-Charles gave us a really good view, but he gave us lots of links of websites really interesting about all this subject.
You actually, it's true. You have a lot of information on the gov.uk website, so it's pretty thorough.
It's all the website you will have at the end of the presentation.
Yes.
Like this one.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have some questions on the chat because I think that time is running. Maybe for Charles-Edouard or Zoe, have you any website job board you would recommend to look for job offers in UK? Maybe some websites more, I don't know, specialized or more used in UK?
Like in France, I think Indeed is used a lot in the UK. So you can set up alerts on Indeed. There's also one called Monster, I think.
Monster.
Yeah, exactly. And trying to think of any other specific ones.
You got Read,
yeah.
RWD. I know them quite a lot.
Yeah.
For going through them, so you got Read, Job Monster, and the one which is LinkedIn. Obviously, that's the one which a lot of people use. I think it's on the main ones, though, right? We mentioned
I think so. And then obviously, you know,
there's other ones you can subscribe to. I subscribe to web. Sorry. Hello.
I think we have an open micro, maybe.
Maybe it was a mistake.
Yeah. There's another website that I subscribe. I paid, I think, around £30 per month. That gives me access to like more senior roles, and it's a search that actually grabs all different. It's called jobleads.com. If you're interested. And they are supposed to be the search engine for more medium to senior position. But to be honest, I unsubscribed because it was not that efficient. But I think the three that we mentioned with Zoe, I think are the main ones for my recent use of them.
Yeah, and then obviously on top of that, as we discussed earlier, you know, depending on like which city you're looking at, you can also research recruitment agencies in that area, and you know, either contact them or have a look. Often they post job adverts on their websites as well.
And don't forget as well, you have the if you are interested in specific companies, you can create job alerts on these companies. So you say, for instance, I've put Nestle. It was in company I was interested. I put Nestle, UK, Switzerland, German position. I'm interested, yes, and I received the job alerts, sorry, on them. And a lot of companies now have this. Why? Because as soon as they post a job, there's a candidate that can actually reply to the ad, and you need to, you know, not forget to unsubscribe that. But with GDPR now, they always remember you to do it anyway. So it's another way, if you know which company you want to target, to get into their job postings.
Okay, thank you very much. I just sent a last question. I'm sorry, you have lots of questions. It's really, really nice. For French person looking to join their British partners, I take this question because it's about love. So I think it's good to finish with this. In the UK, what visa would you be the easiest to obtain, a work visa or fiancé visa? And which one is the most stable in time? Do we still have the visa when we get fired?
There are visas for family members. So for a French a French person who lives with a British citizen, even if not married, but after some time living together, you'll have to check on the site, but it might be two years. You can apply for a family member visa. So that's the specific visa you can apply for when you're a partner of a UK citizen.
Okay. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for all your information. It was really, really interesting. Thank you to join us. Feel free if you have any other question to write us. I will send you all the PowerPoints of this session, and you can find the replay at the end of the week. Thanks to Jean-Charles, Zoe, Charles-Edouard, and Olivier, but I think he already left here at the meeting today. And thanks very much for all of you. Have good holidays for those, and the best for the end of the year, and see you in 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.